We're going to go ahead and start. I want to first of all welcome all our parents and guardians who's on this Zoom update for the parents of our student athletes. And we're going to start off our little program here. We're so thrilled that our Chancellor, Nancy Cable, has been able to join us to give you a little perspective for the university as a whole and to just welcome you to be part of the Bulldog family.
Thanks, Janet. And to all of our Bulldog parents and guardians, thank you so much for entrusting us with the lives of your children and your young adults. We are delighted to have them with us. Janet tells me we have a superlative group of, I believe the last number I heard, Janet, was 277 scholar athletes coming in this fall, across all 4 classes. So to those of you on the call who are responsible for the talents that your sons and daughters will bring to us, both their athletic talent and their academic talent, we are the ones who owe you a debt of gratitude and real thankfulness for being a part of the Bulldog Nation. I've been in higher education a long time. This is my second university college presidency. And I must tell you, I've never had to manage through quite this much uncertainty, complications, details, and ambiguity. At this time, the system, the UNC system, is asking all 17 institutions to prepare to return for in-person instruction. Our start date, as you now know, I think, will be August 10th. We will have a shortened semester because we are eliminating fall break down from really about 6 days to 1 day, so that students will stay around on campus and stay healthy, as we hope they all will be. We are prepared, however, for other contingencies should the governor of the state of North Carolina and the Department of Health and Human Services in the state decide that we cannot open. We are also prepared to have some delay and start our semester online, even if then we return to in-person instruction just a little bit later. So we are prepared for all contingencies. I can tell you that a group of our physical plant talented workers, our faculty, many of our student leaders, and many of our staff have been working over the last 3 months since COVID descended on us 4 months ago. But we've been clear over the last 3 months that we were going to make every level best effort to open for in-person instruction. Some of the things that we've been doing are, most importantly, to put in place all of the highest level of health and safety protocols. Most of those are not new to any of you. We will have masks for all of our students, staff, faculty, and even admission and parent visitors to campus. We will have hand sanitizers readily available across campus. Anyone who shows up without a mask on will be given one to put on. We're crafting community standards that will allow our students and our faculty and staff to understand what is expected of them in terms of respiratory hygiene, hand hygiene, in our high traffic buildings like Ramsey Library, like Sherrill, like Highsmith Union, some of our dining halls. We will be intermittently doing thermal sensor temperature checks. We will ask all of our student athletes, because they work in close quarters with one another in practice and conditioning and play, to do daily symptom checkers to make sure that they are well, that they do not have any symptoms. And we will have adequate testing for any of our students particularly, but also our faculty and staff. In our residence halls, the Department of Health and Human Services in North Carolina has determined that a double room is a room for a, quote, family unit. And so we will have most of our residence hall double rooms and many singles added to that which we had before. We also will have a number of rooms available for isolation, which is for students who have tested positive for COVID, and for quarantine, for students who have been exposed to someone with COVID, but have not yet shown any symptoms, but know that they have been exposed. We will provide meals for all of those students if they should be in isolation and quarantine, and we will provide online classroom instruction so that they can continue for the 14 days and then get back into class as their health allows them to do. We have de-densified our classroom spaces and our seating in the dining hall and other places in the library and so on, so that students can be 6 feet apart. And where they can't be, for example, in our bio and chemistry labs, we've put up plexiglass to protect one student from another so that their work can continue in the labs. This has been a Herculean effort on the part of our faculty. Last March, when the decision was made to go to online only for the balance of the semester, every single one of our 230 or so faculty moved their entire courses, including their labs, their environmental studies, their chemistry, bio, physics labs. All classes went online. The only few that we were not to move online were very equipment dependent, like our virtual reality classrooms in the computer science lab. We didn't have virtual reality glasses to send home with all the students to keep going on their projects. But we, in the end, had 98% of our class instruction from the spring moved to online successfully. And throughout the semester, we've been surveying students and faculty about how this has worked and how to improve it. And so right now, we're implementing in-person instruction, and some that will be online part of the week and in person the other part of the week. And then some of our faculty who are in age ranges by self-declaration that they do not want to return to the classroom at this point because of their age or an immunocompromised person in their homes, will be able to teach from home and continue online instruction. We'll be done with the semester, finals and everything by the 20th of November, which is the Friday before Thanksgiving, and we will not return after Thanksgiving and through the holiday season. And it is yet to be determined when we will open in the spring, although I have a hunch at the earliest it's likely to be February 1st, and then we'll run largely through the month of May for our second semester completion. Let me tell you how proud I am of our athletic director, Janet Cohn. Every single one of our coaches and their assistant and associate coaches, and every one of our athletes thus far, it's been our athletes who have stepped forward and agreed to be a part of these community standards that says, if you're coming back to campus, this is what's expected. Our athletes have stayed in close touch with our coaches and with Associate Athletic Director Terry Burney, who's on the webinar, and with Janet and our coaches directly. I have been very proud of the responsiveness of not only our coaching staff, but the students to our coaching staff to allow us continuity of operations that can keep our employees employed, but most of all, to serve the needs of our students. For the most part, all of them, or nearly all, are clamoring to come back. And for some of you, you may understand fully that some of the parents of our students are clamoring for them to get back on campus as well. So we're doing everything that we can. We stand ready, and I'll stay on the call to answer any questions or to hear your concerns. I know you want to have more conversation with Janet Cohn and her team. But let me stop now and just again finish with a note of thanks to each one of you. We are so delighted to have your sons and daughters a part of our academic community and our Bulldog athletic community, because they bring an excellence on campus that is truly noticeable, it's long lasting, and it has major effects on the quality of what we do at the University of North Carolina, Asheville. So I'm open to any questions or concerns that you might have.
Yeah, thank you, Chancellor Cable. If you have questions, if you'll type them in the Q&A, then we'll be answering those either as we're going along or as we get towards the end. What we thought we would do next is, since many of our student athletes, Terry Burney has not only been educating our staff and our coaches as we transitioned many of them back to work over the last month, she's also been providing much educational Zoominars, I call them Zoominars, to help our student athletes understand what we're going to expect. So we want to show you briefly a little bit of that. And then we have Tim White, our head of our sports medicine program, that's going to tell you a little bit about some expectations in that area. And also Rebecca Nelms, who's assistant AD for student athlete success, our and she works so closely with all of our student athletes and with their coaches, making sure we're getting all the academics. So Terry, why don't you take over, and if you want to share the screen and kind of go through some basics that we've been talking to our student athletes about.
Sure. Thank you, Janet. Welcome everyone tonight. Donna, if you could put that PowerPoint up, that would be great. This is a PowerPoint that I've shared with the student athletes who may be starting voluntary workouts that live in Asheville, possibly next week. Donna, if you could run that as a slideshow, that would be wonderful. But I'll go ahead and get started. This is, you can go to the next screen. Obviously, everyone knows that this is a fluid situation that changes almost on a daily basis. So we wanted to come up with a plan that we could change, but also that would create a little continuity so the student athletes would know what they're going to expect when they came back on campus. Donna, if you go to the next slide, please. So this was the show we showed once again that I said that those student athletes who are approved for voluntary workouts, we're asking student athletes to self-screen for symptoms, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a little while. We are getting a app for everyone's phone where student athletes can answer questions on a daily basis right on their phone, and we will get that information right away. Donna, if you go to the next slide, please. So during this phase, we don't have the whole athletic department, nor is the whole campus open for business right now. So during this phase, we are, the only areas that are open for student athletes would be the Olympic weight room and sports medicine facility for those that are rehabbing injuries. So on our campus in the state of North Carolina and everywhere, face coverings must be worn at all times when you're on campus. We don't have the locker rooms open at this time. Student athletes can get with their coaches to get supplies they need out of those locker rooms if they didn't get them in the spring. No other activity is permitted on campus at this time except for strength training workouts and workouts in the sports medicine facility. So all other facilities at this point are still closed. Next slide, Donna. This is just a reminder to wear masks. Donna, you can go to the next slide, please. So the way that we're going to operate this first phase is that student athletes will need to make an appointment with strength and conditioning coach Cameron or sports medicine Tim. They'll only be permitted into the building by appointment, and then we'll exit directly following their appointment. No in-person meetings with coaches. We're really going to try to keep everyone to certain areas of the building so that we can help keep everyone safe and sanitize as we go. Next slide, please, Donna. As Chancellor Cable said, hand sanitizer will be available in all buildings. It's going to be in Justice Center. We do encourage people, though, as I talked to the student athletes last Friday, if you have those little, travel size sanitizers, feel free to bring those with you and you can fill them up so that you can have those on your person with you at all times. Next, there you go. Right now, as I said, all the buildings are locked and closed to the public. And as we open for appointment only, there will be limited hours. We have a third-party company that cleans our facilities. It's happened since we've opened the Sherrill Center. They're called Clean Environments. They also do the local in the areas. They are very on par with keeping everything clean and sanitized at this time. That's why we're keeping it to certain areas of the building so that they protocol in place as we keep transitioning folks back to campus. This first sentence, all student athletes must quarantine in place for 7 days. What we're asking, and that'll change a little bit, and I'll let Janet address that in a second, but for right now, the voluntary workouts were for student athletes that reside in Asheville, either with their families or in an apartment. And what we've asked those student athletes to do before they come back to campus is to stay in one place for 7 days. That means don't go to Myrtle Beach and don't go, anywhere else. We'd really want you to reside in Asheville, stay where you're at for 7 days so that we can have a good baseline when you come back to campus. We're also asking student athletes to complete a form, a questionnaire that was sent to all student athletes who are going to participate in voluntary workouts to kind of get a feel where they've been. A lot of our student athletes have summer jobs and are employed. So we're trying to get a pulse on what kind of contact they've had with other folks at this time. Okay, Don, you can go to the next one. These are just basic, and everybody knows this, but what we are trying to make sure the student athletes are aware of, if you're sick, you know what, the main thing we try to enforce with the student athletes is, as athletes, we all try to push through it, and you just want to go and you want to work out and you haven't been on campus for a while, but now more than ever, if you're not feeling home, we need you to promote social distancing both on and off campus. We're going to do everything possible to reduce the risks on campus that we can, but we need the student athletes to meet us and reduce risks when they're off campus as well. And then everybody knows to wash your hands and clean and infect your personal spaces, and of course wear your mask at all times. And Cameron and Tim will touch upon the mask a little bit more as they talk. I think that's it, Donna. Is that it? Yeah, that's the end of my. And please put questions up if you have questions.
Yeah, and I just came off of mute. My little Bulldog's here on my lap. Here's a couple questions. This one's for Chancellor Cable. Do you see a change in fees if courses are predominantly online?
At this time, we don't know. We do know that this decision will be made by the UNC system across all 17 universities. So we will have clarity about it, I'm sure, before we open school.
Yeah, another question we had is from the end of fall semester, which is November the 20th, to spring semester, which may be February 1st. What accommodation will you make for athletes who will be training on campus, such as our men's and women's basketball, our swim team, obviously compete during the winter? And as we have done in the past, that we always, if they're in the residence halls and Woods apartments, any of the places on campus, our housing folks work with us, with those folks and the coaches, and we'll continue that process during that time. So nothing will change from what we've done in the past. They're allowed to stay in their on-campus residence during that period. So more to come on that. I think we had another question. Let me make sure I get all of them. I think somebody's answer. Oh, if an off-campus athlete tests positive or needs isolation due to exposure, will they be moved to UNC Asheville isolation facility? Chancellor, you want to answer that one?
That student will have that option provided that there are beds available. I think for the total of quarantine and isolation, we have 68 single rooms allocated right now. We also have backup with MAHEC, which is the Mountain Area Health Education Collaborative, which is located very near campus, actually, not very far at all. And they will allocate beds if needed as well.
Yeah, and Chancellor, here's a question that I think you did answer, but let's ask it again. Dorm living, will students still have roommates, or are all the rooms singles?
No, they'll be both doubles. That's the predominant number. We'll have 1,550 students in the residence halls. The majority will be in doubles. The balance in singles, I don't know what that ratio is. I would say maybe 2/3 doubles and 1/3 singles, but I'm not exactly sure on that. But we added singles and more students are living off campus as well to be able to accommodate more single requests.
Okay, I'm gonna ask a couple more questions. Some of these I'll answer, and then we'll do some more and then try to get back. Will all NCAA schools have the same protocols for athletes? The NCAA has been acting as a guidance to all schools, but each school has been asked to develop their own protocols because we are part of the UNC system. I know this because Chancellor Cable's been involved in this. We were asked to present ours to the system, just like Carolina, just like NC State and UNCW as part of that. We're also being guided by our Big South Conference, but mostly what we are looking to is all our healthcare providers and our friends, whether it's in the state of North Carolina and Buncombe counties, to help us develop our protocols. We have a COVID action working team that has, gosh, 3 doctors on it, our sports medicine folks, a mental health counselor, Terry Burney, Rebecca Nelms. We are meeting at least every other week, refining our protocols daily. So I hope that answered that question. Will the seasons be modified? We don't know the answer to that question yet. As I keep telling our coaches and the student athletes when I'm on Zooms, it's sort of like one step at a time. The first step is how do we get back safely to make sure that we care about the safety of everyone. Then we need to do some basic conditioning because everybody has literally since March been doing their own different protocols. So student athletes will come back with different levels of conditioning. And once we get a basic level of conditioning and evaluation through Tim and Cameron and the coaches, then we'll begin practices. And then depending on who else in the country and what other schools are ready to begin competitions, then we would then move to the competition. So once again, as Terry said, it's kind of a fluid moving target at this point in time. So right now, we think competition for us, we have said will probably start after September 1st. You know, we'll do conditioning and practicing and those kinds of things, but we have indicated that would probably be the earliest that we would be ready. We'll answer some more questions in a minute. Tim White, I want to introduce Tim to everyone. Tim is our head of sports medicine. Tim, you want to touch on some of the other protocols and things that we're requiring of us student athletes as they're coming back to campus?
Sure. Terry did mention a lot of the things that we will be doing, but a few additional items that we'll be doing for sports medicine specifically is we will be appointment only to limit the number of people in our space. So student athletes will be expected to make appointments with us for physical therapy, rehabilitation, injury, evaluation, those aspects. So that'll be appointment based. When student athletes do come in the athletic training room, they will be screened the same way that we screen patients at the hospital. So they will be asked several COVID-related questions. They will have their temperature taken, and they will be given a mask when they come in the athletic training room. We will also, the staff that will be working there will be wearing masks and doing checks every day as far as temperature to make sure we're safe as well before we're working with student athletes. There is an app that Janet has recently acquired for us that we will be using, which is great. It's for daily self-screens. So for this, student athletes will be able to answer a questionnaire on their phone, and the results of that questionnaire will get sent to us, and it'll also indicate on their phone with a red X or a green check, meaning they've been cleared or not cleared for that day. So that will help us for practices and competitions and just coming to work out, just to facilitate student athletes coming in the building. They will also have their temperature taken when they come in the building as well. Other things that we talked to student athletes about we're making a lot of strides as far as prevention of COVID, but everything that we do, there's still always a chance that someone could contract COVID, and we have a plan in place if that does happen to facilitate them to the correct medical provider as needed.
So Tim, I want to say this to the parents and the folks that are watching and listening in. Tim not only is head of our sports medicine, Tim is an employee of Mission Health HCA. And during this time of COVID-19, when we shut down, Tim and our other athletic trainers were all called to the hospital and different testing sites. So Tim has actually, he's what we call one of our responders out there in Buncombe County that's been very involved with this, and we're very thankful and proud of the work they've been doing to help Buncombe County and the hospital system here in our area. I think that is one of the things I want to thank Tim for doing. And so he knows firsthand, he's seen a lot of things, and he's been able to bring us a lot of knowledge and expertise in this area. Tim did mention this app that we have purchased. It's called Healthy Roster Return to Play. Not only will the student athletes have that on their phone, but also the coaches and staff and myself. And before I go, I will get a text every morning that asks me a couple questions, and if I can answer the questions that I'm feeling great, I haven't been around with anybody with COVID-19. It'll send a check mark to my phone that I can show to Tim or anybody in the building. And if for some reason a student athlete, or if it's one of our staff members, our coaches, if a student athlete says they're not feeling well, Tim will get a text, and Tim will immediately call that student athlete to ask them to stay where they are, and we will immediately get them set up to go to our health services to be checked out and all those kinds of things. Our protocol will kick in. If it's one of our coaches or our staff members, we will stay home and contact our own medical care providers. So we think that's going to be something that we've never done before, but one more check thing that could help us stay on top of this. So that's pretty good. Tim, someone had a question. Talk about insurance. Someone, a parent that's from Ohio, how would kind of go over the insurance protocols in this time if you're an out-of-state person, and how we handle insurance?
So for insurance, most of our providers are in network with a lot of the major insurance companies. Our team physicians, both our general med and orthopedic physician, both work through a group called Asheville Orthopedic Associates. So if you wanted to look them up with your insurance network to see if they were in your network, then that's one route to go about. We also have other contacts in our community that if our physicians are not in network, we can help facilitate them to a different physician or a provider that would be in network with the physician and the insurance.
Okay, there's another question that just came in. Will we be testing for COVID-19? We're in the process right now, as Chancellor Cable mentioned, with a partnership with MAHEC, with Mission HCA, and our doctors. We are exploring and trying to set up a protocol to do testing for the student athletes and the coaches and the staff. So more to come on that. We're trying to get the details of that worked out. So Chancellor, there was another academic question. Somebody wanted to know, is going into the fall semester, will we have the pass fail kind of option that we had in the spring? Or
I think that's still to be determined, but I am guessing, and don't hold me to this, that we will actually, particularly for all courses that are completely online, that we'll have that same option. And for some of the hybrid courses, I imagine it will be adopted. And that decision will be made by the provost by the 1st of August.
Okay, thank you, Chancellor. Got another question on there. It might be a good time to introduce Rebecca now. So Rebecca, there's a question about the move-in, how our friends over in student affairs, how they're allowing people to move in and all that. Can you talk a little bit about housing and that process?
Absolutely. So each student athlete should have received an email from housing, and that gives you a list of dates and times. For incoming freshmen, you have not received that yet because you've not been assigned a dorm room yet. But as soon as you have a building assigned, you'll receive an email from the housing office that gives you a series of dates in July that will allow you, if you are close by, to bring all your items to campus, set them up in your dorm room, and then return home. If you're not close to campus, then you'll have your move-in dates. Those are arranged by sport, and they begin on August 2nd, and then there's another wave on the 4th, and a third wave on the 6th. That will be when you can come and actually stay in your dorm room on campus. So you will have communication through the housing office on when those dates are for you.
Rebecca, while you're on too, would you help talk through the parents, any other things about academics, I know you've worked very hard talking to our student athletes, making sure they got their class assignments. So can you just give a little general, first of all, before you even talk about the fall, why don't you give a summary of the great academic report we had for this past year for the freshman parents? They might be interested to see what kind of scholar athletes we have, and then talk a little bit about for the fall. Rebecca, you're on mute, okay?
Okay, sorry. For the class schedule for students now, the returning students should already have your schedules that you arranged in the March, April, May timeframe. And I think that you can still make changes to your schedule at this point. For the incoming freshmen, after Embark, you made your schedules with your advisor, and those of you who have had problems, I've tried to work with you on putting together a schedule around your practice times and things that have popped up here and there. You cannot make any changes to your schedules right now until we make sure that we've got everybody enrolled and we have a better idea of the caps on the classes and where the interests are for the new courses. So you may be on a waiting list. In case you haven't heard me say it before, if you are on a waiting list for a course, please, please, please be sure you always check your UNC Asheville email address every day. If a seat becomes available for a class that you're on a waiting list for, you need to communicate with the Academic Success Center, and that will tell them that you're interested in adding that course, and they will be able to help you add that course. That is actually designed to make sure that you are enrolled in 12 hours, which is critical for compliance purposes for practice or competition. So that's sort of our safety net. Janet also asked me to mention some of our academics from last year. Our departmental average for the spring semester was for the spring semester for across all departments was 3.5 GPA, 3.59 GPA. So, you know, we're very excited about the fact that our student athletes do represent both the student component, which is critical, as well as the athlete component. So we are here to help facilitate that desire to learn and support the academics.
We have a couple questions on here, and I think Cameron's on now too. A couple questions about, will parents be able to watch games? You know, are we going to televise games? Terry, why don't you talk about, we're developing 3 different plans for when we do start competition again. Kind of go over those 3 different plans.
Sure. Yeah, we have 3 different scenarios depending on what's permissible. So we have one plan where no fans will be allowed, but obviously we'll have the game, and those games will be on ESPN Plus, just like they were last year. And so you'd be able to watch it that way. Our next plan is, if we're allowed to only have a minimum number of folks in, that would be pass list only for the most part. So that would be parents and things like that, very few numbers. And then our third option would be if a percentage of our facility. So whatever that is, 50% or 20, you know, we would look at that, see how we could set up the facility, whatever the state deems that we need to do. And then we would set up the facility so that we could social distance and people could come to the games and everyone would be safe. Right now, we don't know what that's going to look like for the fall. For those of you that aren't from North Carolina, our governor, we've just extended phase 2 through July 17th, I believe. So that's still a moving target. And so we have plans in place for everything, and we hope we can get you on campus. But in the very least, we will be streaming everything on ESPN Plus for the most part.
Thank you. Let me get off mute. Chancellor Cable, there's a question here that might also allow you to talk about something that I'm excited about. Someone asked, what about contact tracing? Can you talk a little bit more about our partnership with MAHEC and our sister universities in this area, and about the ambassador program that you've been the leader of?
Yeah, we have drawn together the 6 public and private 4-year residential institutions in the West. That's Western Carolina, UNC Asheville, Mars Hill, Brevard, Montreat, and Warren Wilson. And together we have sought grant funding that would allow us to adopt 3 particular programs. The first is that students would be eligible to become health advocates with a peer-driven expertise about how to use a mask, how to keep us safe, how to remind everybody to follow those protocols. The second one is in concert with the hospital and with MAHEC. We are pioneering a rapid response team should there be even the smallest outbreak on campus in a team, in a residence hall, wing, whatever it might be, in a class. And that will employ doctors, some physician's assistants, and will help all of those students. A part of that will be training our students to do contact tracing through the health department and through the hospital. So we'll be following best-in-class protocols there. The third program will be some funds that will allow our students to go out into the community safely to help a number of folks in our Asheville and Western North Carolina region, into the schools, into some child care facilities, into the hospitals to do some support work, and to allow our students to also have paid internships. So those three things done by those 6 institutions, we believe will really help the western part of the state do this as well as can possibly be done, given the virus.
Thank you, Chancellor. A couple other questions were specifically about outdoor sports, or they're safer. So I want to talk a little bit about those kinds of things. You know, there are certain sports that we have seen not only since this started, but even most recently, like tennis and golf has been played at sort of throughout this in a safe way. So what has happened is they've kind of rated sports which they think are a little safer than others. But when whatever the state health department allows us to do, and the governor, as far as attendance and fans, will apply no matter what, along with our own university protocols and our Big South Conference. So, you know, yes, it is safer to be outdoors. We agree with that, but we still will have to follow by certain protocols, whether or not we can have fans and how many and those things. Somebody else had a question about it's been pretty much, y'all, obviously y'all are all reading a lot of stuff like we are, that swimming pools are a little bit safer. So the question is, why haven't we opened our pool yet? One reason why we haven't opened our pool is we're making sure we have all the right protocols in place in order to handle anything that could possibly happen. So, you know, as we're phasing all this in, if it goes like we plan, not only will the pool open, but the Justice Center and the Kimmel Arena and places for our student athletes to do voluntary workouts and stuff. So more to come on that. Another question was asked, as we have been telling our coaches and student athletes, you know, voluntary workouts, tentatively for, I guess we got about 60 student athletes already in this area that came back to their apartments or have jobs and they'd like to start working out. We also know that NCAA has said men's and women's basketball can start their 8 hours of practice July the 20th, and then we have certain other phases, I think August 2nd, August 4th, and August 6th to kind of phase people in. We know that classes start the 10th, so there's a question about, you know, where will these student athletes stay? If you are living on campus, Bill Haggard and his staff, they know that we'll be moving some student athletes in as early as August 2nd, so they'll make accommodations for that. The other question I saw in here, what about students that live off campus? Will the same health protocols apply to them? Tim, you want to answer that for us? We have some student athletes that live in apartments right near campus.
Yep, the same protocols will apply to them as far as the quarantine in place before they begin working out. As far as the daily check-ins, that'll still be the same. We're encouraging all students, where they live on campus or off, if they feel sick, to call us. So that really doesn't affect if they're on or off campus, because we want them to call us before they come to campus. Because we don't want them on campus if they're ill. We want them to stay where they are so we can get them to the right place. The only difference would be is if they do test positive, there is on-campus housing that would be available as an isolation or a quarantine place if where they are living at currently is not a appropriate environment for them. But yeah, it will stay the same.
There's another question on here, Chancellor, about the winter break. Will students, can you talk a little bit about what Provost Campbell suggested for like a mini 3-week session in December and another one in January? There's a question about, can student athletes enroll in any kind of classes over the winter break?
The answer to that is yes. We will be doing 2 3-week sessions that allow a student to do one course at a time over the course of those 3 weeks. The first one will begin, this will be online only, and the first one will begin on December 1st and will conclude December 21. The second one, it looks like, will start on January 8th and conclude on the 30th of January. We specialize across the system. We specialize in getting students through and ahead toward completion in their graduation. So not unlike summer, which is a really good time for us, for students to move forward and take courses they didn't know they might even be interested in and finding out that was their next major. We will be doing these 2 3-week, one course at a time segments in December and in January to allow students to excel and to accelerate their learning if they wish.
Thank you, Chancellor. Rebecca or Terry might want to answer this question since y'all both work with the financial aid. Question on here, when will the financial aid actually be posted to the student athletes' accounts?
I actually just typed an answer to that one. Typically that happens after July 1st. Sometimes it gets a little hinky with the July 4th holiday, and depending on where that falls. So I would say I would look for it next week, which would be the week of July 6th, is probably when those awards will appear on the student athlete accounts.
Thank you, Terry. Another question here. During the downtime between fall and spring semester, would students be able to have vehicles on campus? Understanding rules are in place. And Chancellor, you want to answer that one?
Yeah, I'm happy to tell you that for a number of years, the university had no cars for first-year students. That has been lifted and will remain lifted even beyond COVID. So students will be able to have their own transportation. In addition, both the buses and the shuttles will run throughout daily 365.
Thank you. I want to move before I answer another question because Cameron Clark is actually on vacation, but she is on this call. Many of you know that gyms and workout facilities have been closed as we get ready to do voluntary workouts. Cameron is the head of our strength and conditioning program. Cameron, you want to talk a little bit about how you're going to work with our student athletes when they start voluntary workouts and as we start bringing more and more of them back. Cam, you're on mute, okay? She may be having difficulty, but I wanted to give her her moment. So, oh, there you go. Cameron, you're kind of breaking up and you're on mute. All right, give her a minute if she can chime in. There was another question about international students, and I know we've been getting some clarification over this the last couple days. Chancellor, you want to take that one, or you want me to give what information I know as of yet?
Why don't you share that, and then I'll talk about what we're doing for all of our international students.
Yeah. This is obviously we've been getting some clarification since our federal government has kind of put in some new practices for travel, particularly for internationals coming to the United States. What admissions told me yesterday, and our folks that deal with this, student athletes that already have the correct visa, if they should be able to come, you know, if they're not in one of the countries that are on the list where you can't travel from. And they were actually going to get me an update on that later this week. I think there's a meeting on Thursday, so I can't answer it completely. For those incoming freshmen who have been scheduling appointments with their consuls, and Rebecca, you're going to chime in on this too, because you know a little bit, you've been helping me. I know that some of those have been canceled and they've asked the students to reschedule. And so, you know, that's some of those things where we'll just have to keep working through those processes and see how it goes as we get a little closer. Rebecca, do you have any more on that?
So the last thing that I heard, and I encourage those of you who are returning to work with both CRIS and or Marcus Webb. Marcus Webb is the person who is your contact person for the F1 visa paperwork. So if you already have your F1 visa paperwork, I think that everything I'm seeing says that you should not be impacted by this. And I can try and forward information along if you want to reach out to me individually. But the biggest concern is that if you're a new student athlete and you don't currently have an F1 visa, the problem may be getting your visa appointment. And so Marcus is going to be your best contact person in dealing with that difficulty as well. Marcus Webb, who's in our admissions department.
Any,
Yeah, Rebecca, can you type in your email so people can, because each country is so different too. Let's let them email you and then you connect them with Marcus. Chancellor, you were going to say something.
any international student who has any difficulty getting approval from their council or getting into the country, we have a way to assist. We can't guarantee, but we have a way to assist. I'm pretty hopeful about this, mostly because our students are such high quality international students and so capable. They'll figure it out, but we're here to help.
And then Chancellor too, because I had another, this was not a question on this one, but somebody else had emailed me. If for some reason they're delayed getting out of their country, they could actually, since we're going to have a hybrid model with some in-person, student could go ahead and sign up for their classes and do the part online. Is that correct?
Until they arrive on campus, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So let me see, I think there was another question. That was an international one. Parking, will the parking spot fee remain the same price?
At this point, it is the same price. If there's any change, again, this will be made by the UNC system office.
Rebecca, there's a question on here about somebody couldn't figure out how to do the wait list. She registered and enrolled, but all classes are in the evening. She has to be at conditioning at 7 a.m. Do you want to answer that one offline about how to help them with classes? Okay.
Yeah, I can't figure out how to send my email out to everybody, but it is rnelms, N-E-L-M-S, @unca.edu. So I'm happy to help.
I think I've answered or asked every question that was typed in. If not, Donna Peak, who's on the back end of this, she'll get all the questions and we'll go back through them. I want to thank everybody again. Before we close, though, I truly want to say, you know, a couple things that I feel very strongly about. First of all, I'm so thankful for Chancellor Cable's leadership and how she has really pulled together some of the best and brightest medical community people, other universities in this area, because we have been a fortunate area of our country that we have pretty much been pretty flat and pretty healthy. So we're very thankful for that. Along with my senior team colleagues, Provost Campbell and John Pierce, and every one of those folks who I hope that you each get to meet at some point in time when we can all be face to face. As Chancellor says, we're going to have one really Bulldog party like never before. The leadership on our campus is strong, and I'm honored to be part of that. We know it's changing daily, and we're learning more and different things each day, and particularly in the world of athletics. We've been very fortunate to partner with our sister schools in the university system, along with others across the country. I'm on a Zoom almost every Thursday night with about 50 or 60 athletic directors across the country who are all sharing best practices. You know, we're doing everything we can to do the best we can with the knowledge we have each day. We don't have all the answers today, but we keep developing our protocols and trying to improve them. My team of Terry Burney and Tim White and Cameron and Rebecca and all the coaches and everyone has really been focusing on how to do this in the very best way. We know our student athletes want to come back and get a great education. We also know, because I've been a coach, they are very motivated by competition. They want to play, they want to swim, you know, they want to play volleyball. And we want that too. We know, but that cannot be the number one goal. We have to do this in a very process protocol type way to keep everyone as safe as possible. So we're giving it the good old Bulldog try. I look forward to seeing each and every one of you. And my email is jcone@unca.edu. You can also call me or shoot me an email and give me your number. I'll call you back. I like to respond pretty quickly. I'll try not to do one of my 7 a.m. calls, but I'll wait till appropriate time during the day. But I really mean that. If you have other questions, please email us. We're so proud of our student athletes. Last year, we graduated 32 student athletes and we had a student we had 236 in our program. We graduated 32. As Chancellor Cable says, it looks like we're going to have about 278, which is a huge increase in our cross country and track programs. Men's soccer has really increased some of their numbers. So the largest Bulldog student athlete class that we've ever had here at this university. So we are so excited that there truly are scholar athletes, and we certainly are proud to have you be part of the Bulldog team and family. So we will, I see a couple more questions. We'll get those questions and get answers. So Chancellor, closing remarks.
Yeah, I just like, before I ring off, please think of us as partners, we with you and you with us, as we prepare to have students return to campus safely and get back to the work that the university is here to do in the life of the mind, as well as the development of leadership on our campus. Please, if you have any question or concern or something we've said or we've written in the subsequent weeks ahead is not clear to you, please be in touch with anyone who's been on this webinar, including myself. My email is just Chancellor's office, and if you type that in, it'll get to me, and we will respond quickly. And we will continue to do these updates. I think the next one would be about the 3rd or 4th week in July. We will know then where the governor stands, what phase the state is in. We will know what other best practices have been adopted by us and by other organizations. And we'll know where the city and the region stands at this point, at that point. So please see us as partners. We are here to help and support your sons and daughters and make their experience the very best that it can be. And if you have concerns and questions, be in touch. And if you have ideas, those are welcome too, because we're making it up as we're going along, given the situation of some ambiguity, but a real determination. If we can do this with the best safety protocols in place, we're going to try. So thanks everybody, and I'm grateful to have been a part of this call. Please stay in touch with us, and thanks for partnering on this particular opportunity we have in front of us that's truly unprecedented. So let's do it together. There's too much going on in the world to have your sons and daughters not have a first-rate college education at this particular point in time. So thanks, Janet, and thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and before we get off, there's one other thing. We will do another update, because not only about COVID-19, but we are spending quite a bit of time about the issue of racial injustice. And actually, we spent several hours today, and we've done several what I call listening sessions. So if you would humor us and come back again for more, we love keeping you updated, but I really want to get everybody updated on what we're going to do with our diversity, inclusion, and equity program. So more to come on that. We're still in the listening and analyzing and putting together some improvements that we're going to make in our athletic department. So we'll do another one of these in a few weeks, and that will be one of our major topics. So thanks, everybody. Really appreciate it. Thanks for the positive comments that some of you wrote too. That's good to hear every once in a while. So we appreciate you. Thank you.